I have nothing to talk about this week. I'm going to be brutally honest. I have no pre-show. I have nothing to really say. Anyone? Any? Bueller? No? Derek?
I do. I want to follow up with John just because in honor of his Trapper Keeper information that he shared with so many that people loved, by the way. They've been, the commercial has been viewed, I believe it was 79 million times, John. You're going to get a huge payday. I found my most Trapper Keeper-esque shirt that I possibly can. But
that is
John was sharing some facts, and I don't know how much you can share with us, John, but I just thought it was fascinating about like the whole payment for the commercials and how they do it.
This was back in like mid 80s. It was like, it comes down to after it starts off at like $300 and it gets halved until it gets to $52 every time they showed the commercial. So again, somebody keeps track of it like that. It shows, 4 times per channel for $52, but that's how it works.
So when
was the last time you got a check?
Oh God, it's been like 17 years.
Oh, okay.
Until next week when
that would be, if they brought it back, great. Just HD it.
I think it has to run on cable television.
This is cable. We are cable television. Who watches cable television anymore? I don't.
And in case I did mention it, very interesting. The Money Pit was filming next door. I could see the staircase that broke from the house.
Oh.
The Money Pit with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long? Rad.
We didn't see the people, those celebrities. I just saw the set. And I was like, what's that? They're like, it's a new movie coming out called The Money Pit. I had no idea that staircase was a breakaway thing, but that was cool to see. So as I'm talking in that school, I can look right there and see the whole house from The Money Pit.
Okay, and Panda, you did a few other commercials too, didn't you?
Yeah, where they superimposed my head onto the football player.
That was kind of funny.
That was weird.
I'm going to superimpose heads on our heads next week. So
just change us all up.
Stay tuned for that. It's a reason to come back and watch more. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I'm your host, Paul Krieger, joined as always by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
We've got John Sakari, aka Big Fat Panda, with us.
Welcome home, everyone.
The man that looks like a walking trapper keeper this week, Derek DeBoer.
Hey now, and I want my head on Jeff Haslam's body.
We can make that work. Jeff Haslam, just pose for a second. Pose. There we go. Do the finger gun. And Jeff Haslam and someone, please, out there in the internet world, put Derek's head on him. And you can send it to info@dvcfan.com, and we'll be sure to share that in a future episode. And I guarantee you someone will say it because I get random emails all the time.
So. I have to say, with the shirt that Derek's rocking today, do you remember when we did the AI images of us like in the 80s and as hippies? It kind of looks like that without trying, honestly.
It does.
I actually think there is a Trapper Keeper with that exact shirt.
It is. It's the same pattern. I own that pattern on something. I know I did.
Yeah.
It's really, really hot.
Did you own
it's
that
the Paisley
shirt?
of the 80s.
Like, was it in your closet already?
No,
I actually had it for a birthday party that we went to a couple of years ago for actually Nick, who founded the DVC resale market. He had an 80s themed party. So I had this. Wore it to the party one time, and then I put it in the closet, and I was like, I'm probably never going to have a reason to wear that shirt again. And I thought, I don't. I have it. I'm wearing it right.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this week's show. As you know by the title, we are talking about the worst DVC mistakes that we have made in our lives or as members. And let me just say that it happens more than you think. And even as veteran members that try to tell you guys how to use your points, we still make mistakes today. And it's important to understand that that's okay because we're all continuing to learn and kind of use these points and use the system properly, but we make mistakes just as everyone, especially as newer members. You're bound to make a mistake or two. So we're going to talk through a couple that Amy's put together a list of that are some ones to maybe just keep in the back of your mind so that you don't make the same mistakes that we did. Go around the room, talk about any additional ones. Before we get to that, as always, if you love this and all of our content on DVC Fan, please show some love for our sponsors over at the World of DVC. DVC resale market if you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract. Monera Financial, who can help you with financing that DVC resale contract purchase, and the DVC rental store, who can try before you buy, rent some points, rent out your own points, swap your points, any of that kind of stuff. And I'll add one more plug, which is personal for us and this show, which is our DVC fan Patreon community. I've recorded way too much random ramblings from this round of 3 shows that we just put together. And we will put some of those videos up over in the Patreon community. So please show some love over there as well. Patreon.com/DVC fan. Join us. We've got an amazing community that's kind of generated themselves. And we chat, we share things before they come out. We show you some random behind the scenes stuff. So you can guarantee anywhere that we will have that picture of Derek's head on Jeff Haslam. It'll be on Patreon first. So join us, have some fun. But
I shared your lamp video on Patreon, Panda, that you sent
Lamp
Paul.
video.
You bought him the lamp.
Oh,
the
yeah.
cheese lamp, yes.
We got to do a trade for the Panda you got me.
Yes, I got Panda some Panda gear at a recent Universal event, so that was pretty cool.
I also found in a drawer a Wally coin.
Yes,
That's going
you
on
mentioned that.
to him. Yeah, I'll send it to you with the other thing when I see you. But
yeah, we just have to
it's
meet
weird
up
the way-
and see each other. We're so close and yet so far.
so close.
All right, Amy, take us away on this journey of mistakes that we've made and that we regret.
Okay, so I will just be as upfront as possible. We had no idea what we were doing when we first bought DVC. I mean, to an extent, we knew some, but there were a lot of misconceptions and things we didn't know and didn't understand. And so I thought it would just be interesting to look at some of those mistakes that we made. And also I work with a lot of new buyers, and I kind of see some of the things that they do, or people tell me things that they did that they regret. So I thought it would just be interesting to go through some of those items. So for us, one of the first ones for me is not knowing in the beginning that we could buy multiple other resorts direct. So what happened to us was we started with a resale Animal Kingdom contract, and we had it accepted. It went to Disney for right of first refusal. And I had always said to Paul, eventually we're going to save up and buy. At the time, it sounds so low saying it, but it was 25 points was the minimum direct that you needed for perks. But it
makes it sound like we bought it in like 93
right?
or something.
At the time, it was, I told Paul, I don't want another DVC loan. So we're going to save up until we can afford that 25 points cash, and then we'll have direct perks, and then we'll have our other contract. So what happened was right around after we passed right of first refusal in like beginning of February, DVC put out basically a notice that said on this date, and it was pretty much a week later.
Yeah, it was coming up fast.
Yeah, the direct perks requirement is going to go from 25 to 75. So with that in mind, we weren't quite as established. I was, had just been teaching a few years, so we weren't quite where we're at now. But, in our heads, it was, okay, we cannot afford 75 points direct. So this dream of having these perks is going away really fast unless we buy now. And so we just made a decision that we were just going to buy direct and add it to what we had. And they basically, when we called to do this, it was, oh, you're buying an Animal Kingdom contract. Okay, I've got Animal Kingdom points in that same use year. And we didn't know to say, well, what about, could we buy Bay Lake, which that's probably what I would have bought. Or can we buy this resort or this resort? We didn't know any better. We just thought we were buying Animal Kingdom. They were offering us Animal Kingdom. That's what we had to buy. So it was a mistake, I think, to not realize that we had other options, not to ask about them, not to explore what else was out there.
And I'm surprised that didn't come up at some point in the conversation because of the issues we actually had buying those additional direct points. Because in the state of West Virginia, where we were at the time, they basically made timeshare organizations register the timeshare units that they were selling with the state, which meant like per resort, you had to pay a fee to register that with the state of West Virginia. So Disney Vacation Club basically said, well, we're only going to register or keep registered the actively selling properties that we actually currently are offering members. So in our situation, it was not being offered. So we got further down this buying path and found out, oh, we have an issue.
They did talk about the ones who were actively selling with us. Well, you could buy Alani. Remember, that was one.
Alani was one. Yeah.
The Copper Creek, the issue with Copper Creek was the minimum was 75 anyway when you bought Copper Creek as a new, because we hadn't closed yet on our resale, we were still new members. We weren't existing members yet. So they did kind of push us towards Alani and actively selling, or Animal Kingdom, which is what you're already buying. But we didn't really know to look at other resorts.
Yeah, but long story short, in an email that Amy wrote to Bob Iger later, we figured it out. And we actually closed on that contract because at the time we owned property in Ohio and we could send the documents there and close on things in Ohio. And yes, there is a blog somewhere that we wrote a long time ago that kind of outlined that story a little bit more about us and being told basically by our guide at the time that we must have had some people in high places looking after us because they were told to make it happen. And so.
Yeah, that was the most Disney thing that's ever happened to us.
In your defense, Amy, you were rushed because you thought, oh my God, I only have a week for this dream. So I'm guessing that's why no matter what they said, you were taking it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of them. I have some other ones, but I want to hear from you guys.
What mistakes have you made, Derek?
I don't want to say it's a mistake, but I think Amy touched on other than wearing this shirt tonight. I would say that probably, like you guys said too, is that when you go to learn about Disney Vacation Club, and back when we bought in like the late 90s, we weren't given a choice. You know, it basically was like, hey, we got the boardwalk. This is what you guys can buy. Here's the cost of it. Here's how much it is going to be to finance it. Here's how long these good promotions are good for. I think everything, I mean, everything has changed. Because, I mean, even when I became a vacation guide, 15 plus years ago, there wasn't the amount of research that people can do right now. And we talked about it on a previous show. And that's why it's such a blessing for folks now, is that because Disney will always go in with, kind of their number one choice. So when you look at buying direct, that's their job, is to say, okay, hey, this is a resort we're selling. Here's the model room that we're going to show you. This is how much it's going to cost. What they don't want is to proactively give you, too much to think about. Like, hey, welcome. So we've got 15 different resorts that you can choose from. Here's the varying prices across all 15 resorts.
Yeah.
They want you to go in and say, oh, this is the one I have to buy, and this is how it's going to work, regardless if that's going to be the best one for you, and that's what I think is so key now for folks learning about Disney Vacation Club. And again, this is not you got to buy resale type thing, because every day we send people, at least I send people to a direct guide. So to my friends at Walt Disney World, that if it makes sense for you to buy direct for whatever reason, perfect. Let me go ahead and give you the name of a great direct guide who can go ahead and help you out. But I think for folks that take their time, bless you, whoever sneezed, that for the folks that know that, yes, you can use your points at different resorts. That's kind of the cool part about Disney Vacation Club. And a vacation guide might tell you and say, yeah, you can use it at Beach Club. Oh, it's so fun to go to the Beach Club during Food and Wine Festival. Absolutely. So take your Riviera points, and then at 6 months out, you can book, the Beach Club for Food and Wine. Technically, can you? I mean, sure, you can. But if you know that you love the Beach Club, that's where you have all these tools at your fingertips to be able to say, you got to be able to pick the resort that's right for you, whether that's, via resale or whether that's via direct. But like you guys said it perfectly, it's know that there's more than just quote unquote one option out there. So make sure that you're aware of that.
Yep. You outlined a couple kind of just common ones here as like a list, Amy. So buying 2 different use years. This is kind of the one we hear of very frequently. I actually was working with a member just the other day that was trying to rent some points, and they were like, I don't understand. Why can't I select both of these contracts? And I'm like, well, you essentially have 2 different memberships. You have 2 different use years. So these 2 things cannot compute, cannot go together, because They are two different use years, so they cause a bunch of issues. There is kind of a workaround for that. You can actually transfer from one contract into the other, and that kind of helps you use the points together in various ways, but it's still very complicated. So we've said it before, once you've established a use year, it can be simpler for you to kind of use those as a single, keep that use year. For us, we do have 2 use years now, but it's methodical in the fact that we have points out on the West Coast. So we have our Grand Californian points, and then we have all of our points here at Walt Disney World in a different use year. So that makes sense for us based off of travel tendencies and things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's a huge one, Paul, because we get asked that every single day from members that are looking to add on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, great. So is the listing you're looking at, is it the same use year you have now? And then they go, no. Does that really matter though? Because it's the same resort and, or the names are going to be different. And you want to stress to them that, yes, like you said, is there a workaround to it? Of course there is, but nobody loves having multiple use years. Nobody wakes up every day when they go to book and say, God, I love having this. This is so fun. I get to call to transfer my points. I don't want to make it easy and keep everything under one membership number. Let me put an extra step. So is it doable? Yes. Do people love to have to call to transfer their points? And do they wish that they could go back? Every day we have people that literally will even sell an add-on contract that they bought in a different use year just to say, I just don't want to do this anymore. Can I just go ahead and sell it? And I'm going to buy one in the use year that I have now. So that's a huge one.
There is going to be someone that loves that comes for you in the comments. That they love the phone call. They love the conversation, all of the above. And,
I can do multiple wait lists, so I can do multiple wait lists. So they'll try to work around it and put lipstick on it and try to make it, but I guarantee no one really, really loves it.
Jeff, I love your perspective of this a little bit more than others because of the fact that you actually bought in as part of listening to this show and kind of getting educated from us. So same as Panda, like both Panda, you sat in the room and just slowly it really didn't take long at all. But truthfully, for both of you then, what mistakes have we made in educating people that maybe it's a mistake that you've made as a result of that?
Gotta go. Bye.
So I've got 2. One's a thing I wish I would have done differently. And one is it's not necessarily a mistake, but that people should be cognizant of. So I don't know if you want me to do both now or if we're going to swing back around, but I'll do the first one and then you guys can tell me. I went all in on my first resort with a ton of points. So my first ever was a 250 point Old Key West contract in 2042 that I wish I would have diversified a little bit more. 250 points is a lot at one resort, especially if you're going to take advantage of that 11-month window and you want options.
Yeah.
I wish I would have split it up because the subsequent contracts are smaller. They're easier to sell if you need to. But more importantly, you have a lot more home resorts if you kind of spread those out. Where my 11-month window, even with my direct points, all of my contracts, all 4 of them are at Old Key West. And I'm stuck there forever. So that's something I wish I would have done. I love Old Key West.
I didn't know all 4 of your contracts are Old Key West.
They
cool.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all the same use year, right? They're all the same.
They are all the same use year. That is one thing I learned from you guys. That, in fact, 2 use years scares the bejesus out of me. I don't ever want to deal with that. But yeah, I wish I would have diversified a little bit more, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and truthfully, it's a testament to when you bought, you still lived in Utah. You didn't, that outside of the fact that probably even if you did, you would have liked to have, a little bit more options in that 7 to 11 month window. But nowadays, specifically, it's like you're 20 minutes down the road from Old Key West, if that. On a good day, it's less.
Well, and on top of that, too, it's like when I bought sight unseen. I'd never stayed at DVC. I'd never stayed at Deluxe Resort even. My highest level of Disney stay was Port Orleans Riverside when I bought DVC, right? And so I was like, well, anything is better than what I have now. So Old Key West, it was cheap. Let's buy all of it. Let's buy everything.
Buy all of it.
And then I started to use my points elsewhere, and I was like, Oh.
Try all of it.
If you
There's other places.
the more you get to learn, the more you get to know Jeff, like we have though, this translates to other aspects of life as well. Legos, buy all of it.
Pizza.
Cruises.
merch, Disney merch, all of the
Aw,
all of
now
the
I feel
above.
bad though. So okay, Old Key West is great. It
No,
is a
I
nice
love
resort.
It. I love it. I love it.
But
I love it.
you got all these points, and now you're stuck at a resort that is themed to your home state. So like you don't get a lot of like, you know, the whole feeling like I'm being transported to somewhere. You're being transported to Florida from
It's
Florida.
true, but at the same time, I focused on Old Key West too because of that. Like I'm a palm tree guy, a
Yeah.
huge Jimmy Buffett fan, and it's the only bus loop that plays Jimmy Buffett while you're going to the parks. So
Oh, I did not know
did not know
that.
that, yeah.
The
there's
more you
three
know.
songs that are on loop on that thing. So I don't regret buying at Old Key West. I regret buying all of Old Key West.
Most of us joke about owning like a doorknob or something. Jeff actually owns a whole room. Like he's got a room to himself. Panda, you are our newest member of the group and continue to learn. Actually, over on Patreon, we'll put up. I recorded earlier. Amy was having a use your conversation.
I didn't know that was being recorded for the record.
Amy's like my Jiminy Cricket for DVC. I think she's a lot of people's Jiminy Cricket for DVC. But I was really lucky because I had you guys, so I couldn't make mistakes really. I learned from you as I'm sitting in the room, and I wanted DVC. Now that I know myself, I realize the 11th window for me didn't matter at all. I just don't use it. I book 3 months, 2 months in advance, and I love just pulling up what's available and, you know, being my own thing. I'll check tomorrow if I don't see what I got, and sure enough, it's probably there in a couple of days. So I use it differently than I thought. So even though I bought Riviera and I'm thrilled, I don't know that I would if I did it again. I'm sure I'd go resale if I did it again. But the thing that I wouldn't say is a mistake, but something that, again, be cognizant of, like Jeff was saying about one of his things, when I bought, I forget what month it was, but I remember they said, oh, we'll also give you like last year's points. And that was like, oh my God. So, you know, the 150 points initially was like 300. I didn't realize I got to pay dues in a month now or so for that. Whenever I bought it, it was like, oh, a month later, I have full dues due. Yeah, because I was so happy to get the points from last year. That's the only problem I see. Is, you know, I gave them my 10%, and then I realized, oh, I still have to give them dues.
Because you have a December use year, right?
Correct.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, so they're prorated, but he pretty much probably had the whole year left.
Whole year.
They gave me the whole 150 from the previous year. Yeah.
So if you could go back, knowing what you know now about yourself, what resort would you buy?
Probably Old Key West or Saratoga.
Yeah,
Just
not
because it's
all of
lower
Old Key
price.
West.
I know
Not
a guy
all of
that'll
Old
sell you
Key.
some points there.
I probably would have bought some from Jeff. Yeah. Wait, so now here's a real question that I don't know. Jeff has 250 points at Old Key West. If that's one contract, can you sell a portion of that contract or no?
No, only Disney
Has to
can.
be the whole
Only Disney
thing.
can buy it back and split it up.
Okay, got it.
So
The
I
mouse
have a 400 total points that are all
Oh
Old
man, that is a lot of Old Key West points. You and because of how cheap it is, you might be able to live there for a year.
That's right. Not quite, but yeah.
And let me preface what I said about what I would buy. Not to mean I don't love Riviera. I could still go. You know, as long as you're flexible and you live a half hour away, it's so much.
Exactly.
It's just a very different animal than if I lived in New York still.
Yeah, the most recent direct incentive would have been perfect for you because you could have gotten both the direct benefits, which was important to you at the time when you bought in, but also gotten in at a resort at, you know, a decent rate and had the flexibility and all of the above. So, yeah,
It's interesting though, because you guys are talking about your Animal Kingdom journey. I kind of did the same thing because we got word I bought when minimum was 125 and they were about to bump it to 150. And I did the same thing. I panicked. And so I called up and I was like, I'm ready to buy direct. I got to get this done. And they looked at my contract and saw that I already had like a whole building of Old Key West to myself. And they're like, we have some Old Key West points. Do you want just more of those? They didn't offer me Riviera or Alani or any of those, which I kind of wish I knew that at the time.
Yeah.
I guess that's a third thing that I could add, but they just said, here, have more.
Have another building.
they knew you liked to buy them up, so
Okay,
they had them
so-
earmarked for you from the beginning.
Jeff owns Olivia's.
That's why they sell fried chicken there. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
That's like their feature dish too. Okay, so another one. This one, I don't feel like this is one of our mistakes, but I hear this one when I talk to people, especially with Monera. And it is buying a resort without staying there. So basically sight unseen, which a lot of people do. Yeah. But I have met people that have done this, thought it was going to be their dream resort, stayed, and just, no, I didn't like it. So, but now you've got all these points that you bought and you own there, and that's your first booking window. So it works for some people, but it might be a good idea if you have the ability to stay there or at least experience it as much as possible. You know, go to the resort, eat at the restaurants, whatever else you can do.
Yep. That's why we always say, you know, buy where you want to stay, try out different resorts first, you know, rent points with like DVC rental store or something, and try several different properties, build yourself like a mega split stay or something. And just explore all of these. Or even if you don't want to do that, take a day or two of your Disney vacation and just explore the resorts. Go to these different resorts. If only for dining reasons, there's amazing restaurants available, but you should be doing that whether you're a member now or if you're thinking about becoming a member, because depending on what's going on, like Christmas season, it's a no-brainer. Like you want to step foot in each of these resorts because they have different unique decorations and different unique ways that they celebrate the holidays. And so by kind of just at least just going around to the different resorts, you can definitely yeah.
And Jeff, you were kind of raised your hand on that one. Did you buy Old Key West before you even stepped onto the property?
I bought 3 contracts at Old Key West before I stepped on the property. So I've told this story briefly before, but I bought during the pandemic, you know, to kind of towards the tail end of it. I used the money that I had saved up for we had a big vacation plan. We were going to go to Washington, D.C. and Disney World in the same month. And both of those got canceled because of the pandemic. And so I took all that money and I bought my first Old Key West contract, the 250-point one. Before that one closed, I saw another one. I was like, ooh, that's a really good deal, which goes to my other mistake that we'll talk about in a minute. And then that one closed, and that's when they announced the direct change. So I grabbed that one too. So I actually had closed on all 3 before my first trip. That was the following February. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that he bought without even seeing.
Jeff, where was your very first stay? So when you booked it and you checked in and they said, welcome home, what kind of room and what resort was it?
So we had a split stay, 2 nights at Old Key West, 2 nights at Copper Creek, and then 2 nights at Universal.
Oh.
When I checked into Old Key West, we had booked a studio and walked into a 2-bedroom.
Oh, well, that's a good start.
And then we had a 1-bedroom. We had a 1-bedroom booked at Copper Creek and walked into a cabin.
Oh my goodness!
I feel like I've got to give the disclaimer right here. The things that were happening coming out of the pandemic,
right,
will never happen again.
Yeah. So we did get 2 upgrades as well, but they weren't as good as Jeff's upgrades. Our Old Key West stay was a studio, and they gave us a 1-bedroom. And our Riviera stay was a tower studio, and they gave us a 1-bedroom. So that one was a pretty good.
We were a little sad with that at first. We were like, we really want to try the tower.
No. He might have been sad. There was no sadness.
My welcome home stay was a studio to a 1-bedroom as well.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Okay.
At Riviera.
And Panda, you toured Riviera before you guys bought. You and Mark toured
with Gib McCain. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, it was his. I'm sorry, I never actually met Gib. It was his associate.
Yeah. Derek, you bought Boardwalk? Did you stay or see the Boardwalk before you bought it?
Yeah, so we have kind of a weird history of DVC. The first time we toured, we actually toured at Old Key West. So it was way back when we were staying at Dixie Landings. They came and picked us up in a really cool car because they had this old time car that used to take people on tour. It was so cool. And then you go to Old Key West at what's now known as the Commodore House, and they had this whole presentation. And Gib was my vacation guide and still was. And at that time, it was just Old Key West was your only option. And so we sat there and talked about it. We said, we don't even have a house, but God, we we love Disney, so we're married, we're gonna have kids one day and come back, so it just made so much sense. And we're like, yeah, but it's like $12,000 for like 170 points. We're like, oh, no, I don't know if we should do it, but we did it. And then we got home, and then a week later we found a house, so I had to call Gib and I had to cancel my contract. But I always remember this, and this is what made me, and I swear to God, this is what made me want to become a Disney Vacation Club guide. Because when I talked to Gib and I told him, and I said, Gib, I'm so sorry, but we found a house. And he said, Derek and Annie, don't worry about it. He goes, your future, you finding a house is much more important than you buying Disney Vacation Club right now. We will be here whenever you're ready. It's probably going to be more expensive, so just know that. But we will be here. Congratulations. And that's when he told that, I was like, my God, that's such a great way to do it. And sure enough, it was 1 year later, then they were selling the boardwalk. So we bought the boardwalk basically, sight unseen. So we had never stayed at the boardwalk. We had visited it and walked outside, but we never saw a room or anything like that. But that's how we wound up with the boardwalk, which was great for us because at the time we lived in Indiana. So we would use that 11-month window. So when the kids were babies, we would plan 11 months out to be able to get the boardwalk and do all that. Like John said, now that I'm local and live so close, if I could do it over again, if I were to buy for the first time being a local, I'd probably buy Saratoga Springs just because we don't plan, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 month, 1 week out is what we'll plan. So, but yeah.
I think that's a great story though for people that maybe listen to our show and they're like, I just can't make it work right now financially for Disney Vacation Club. Like, if this product is going to be here, it is going to be here for years to come. And your bigger life events, marriage, kids, a family, a house, those things can happen first. And when you can fit it into your budget, then Disney Vacation Club is going to be there for you, and there's going to be plenty of options to choose from. So
it's so important to say that, Paul, because truly, I mean, the number one most famous phrase, and they've been saying it forever, is that members always say, "I wish I did it sooner." I wish
all the time
sooner. So that's the number one phrase. And I used to sit with families and meet them on the cruise ship or wherever, and it'd be so perfect for them, but for whatever reason, they didn't join. But then sure enough, I'd see those same families again, whether it's on another ship 2, 3 years down the road. And the reason they told me at the time was, yeah, I think we're kind of done with the whole Disney thing. The kids are getting older. It's like, okay, great. No problem. No worries. Cut to that family 3, 4 years later. And I sit down with them and they kind of go, oh God, it's the same guy. I wonder if he's not buying. And I'd say, great. So what kind of trips have you all been taking the last couple of years? And they'll be like, Disney. And then we went to Disney, and then we did a Disney cruise and they're like, God, you were right. We should have done it back when we did, so that's really the number one thing that people have. And honest to God, get started with something. You don't have to go full Jeff Haslam and buy an entire resort when you join the club. You can buy like a 50 pointer or like a 100 pointer just to try it and make sure you like it, and then buy more later on. Like,
you're going to call old key Jeff.
Never follow my lead about anything. I'm just going to say that right now. You should never, ever do what I
do. You mentioned something that you hear about at Monera a lot that runs into issues. One that I hear about from members a lot over on the rental source side of things is banking and borrowing points, and kind of understanding not only how that works, but that it is a final transaction. And, if you do borrow points, those points do get stuck then within that use year that you've borrowed from. That's a final transaction that can't go back. So that is something that you want to be fairly certain of when you make the decision to do so. Banking, a similar situation. That was the exact conversation that I think Panda and Amy had that we'll put up over on the Patreon channel that was related to, Panda, you've got some points, your banking deadline's coming up end of July, I think. So you kind of have to make that decision as to, do you want to bank them forward? Do you not? How does that affect your future trips? What does that mean for how you can use them? All that kind of.
Panda's having an existential crisis over 2 points. I
just wish that it went with the use year. You have to bank. My December use points should have to be banked by November 30th, not July. It's just something to remember, but I'm getting it. I'm picking it up.
But even to say that, and this was the one thing that has been in my head through this whole show, is that people get upset about losing 2 points. Amy and I lost 2 points last year. Mm-hmm. And as much as it
Aren't you
hurt
upset?
us, like
you let it go.
You have to.
Like you
Bless and
we had no
release.
choice.
and it was the result of us changing rooms to be at a different resort because that's where we wanted to be more. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we were okay with that because you know what? I would have paid 2 extra points for that room that we changed to. Or, you know, even though it was less, you know, I would have paid the extra 2 points because that's where we wanted to be. And that's why we did the maneuvering that we did. And it just so happened that 2 points get stuck. And this, you know, sadly, like this is a big takeaway that I hope people listen to of this show because we do get people at rental store that call us, hey, I've got 4 points. I've got this many points. And like anything less than 10. And it's like, I'm sorry, but let it go. Like you have to let it go because at that point, unless you're willing to take a further risk of borrowing points or putting more points at risk to do something to try to get them used, which it just never is worthwhile.
Yeah. Or the other option that kind of leads me into one of the mistakes is that a lot of people don't know that one-time use points exist. And so that is something that could potentially help you. So one-time use points are Disney will sell them to you. They don't have any kind of home resort. They are just 7-month window or less that you can buy them. They're what, $20 a point now?
What's the maximum?
You can get up to 24 per membership per year, per use year. So if you've got 4 points left and there's a room available and maybe it's 15 points and you can actually go for that one night, then you could call member services, buy the remaining 11, have your 4, and then you've got a stay. But, you know, you have to be very flexible in order to make that work a lot of times. But one-time use points can be very helpful if just finishing out a stay, adding on an extra night, if you need a couple extra points and you don't have them or you don't want to borrow. Just knowing that it exists, and it does not matter if you are direct or resale, they will sell them to you for the same price. Everybody can have them.
And just to be clear, you have to chat or call them. You can't do that on the interface.
Yep, that's correct. You have to. Yeah, you have to call. I've never done it on chat before. It might.
I would have loved a little drop-down menu. How many?
Yeah, I think you can only buy them on the phone because I'm pretty sure they take credit card information directly from you, which you can't input on the chat. But anyway, yeah. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about. I don't know if I got you off topic or not, Paul. But here's one.
I'll just say one last thing. You know, to the point of, you know, Panda's situation and the point of people getting into that banking and borrowing situation, which is when you do buy in, take note of when that borrowing deadline is and make a note on your calendar. Just make a recurring note, probably a month before that deadline, and then make a note on that deadline that your points need to be banked by that specific date, because that's just going to save you from getting into that situation. Because if you pass that date, and your points have not been banked, then you get into a very sticky situation because you don't have many months left on your use year. And so your options are significantly limited at that point in terms of options. And Hermes agrees because he's chewing on his dog toy. So go ahead, Jeff.
My second thing that I was going to say and save for later, but it kind of dovetails into a little bit what you guys are talking about. So I'll just say it now and then I can shut up for the rest of the time. When you're buying your contracts, be cognizant of loaded contracts that have already been banked from the last year, because what you find out in year 2 is you don't have near as many points as you thought you did. And that's add-on-itis in a big way. Yeah. So my 250-point contract was actually double. It was fully loaded from the year before. I had 500 points. I stayed like 4 or 5 different stays that first year. And then year 2 came, and I was like, where'd all my points go?
Wait, on a lower level, that happened to me when I got my 300, and then I was left with 150. I was like,
seriously, especially when they upgrade you to a cabin that first trip, and you're like, I've got all these points. Wait, I can't even afford one night at a cabin.
I remember we did a single night in a cabin back in 2021.
Yeah, it was 124 points.
124 points
That
for
was
one
so
night
many
in a cabin.
points.
But we loved it so much that I don't know if Derek, you remember this, but I remember because I remember where I was when I was doing it. But I was sitting on the picnic table outside the cabin, and I was like looking at DVC resale contracts, and I was hard mathing, thinking, how do I flip some of my other contracts?
I remember you
so
doing
that I can
this.
buy cheaper contracts.
Cabin points. We
And
call
get
them cabin points.
I need, and I think that's all I messaged Derek. I was like, Derek, I need cabin points.
I totally remember that. Totally remember that.
That's funny because all I remember is Amy trying to catch a lizard with a pot and a pan.
Hey,
I'm
I
not
saved that lizard. Whether he wanted to be saved,
That is a great
rescued,
part
or
of
not.
that video. If you never saw any of our
Lewis.
our
now
cabin
I
tour.
have to get him out of my own house. Now I live here, and I have a lizard catcher, which is just a Tupperware and a piece of cardboard, so
Patent
that I
pending.
can. Yeah, I save them and put them outside.
we do. Yeah.
That's what dogs are for. kidding?
Oh no, that'd be so sad.
What else do we have on our list of
I have
common
I have a
mistakes?
couple more.
Yeah.
One is along the lines of what you guys are talking about with borrowing mostly. And this is a mistake that we made, that you and I
I've
don't know
never
if you,
made a mistake.
I don't know if you remember this, but so we were planning on taking both of our moms, which we did
We did.
in 2019, to Animal Kingdom Jumbo House, and we needed a 2-bedroom. But to be able to afford to take them both with our measly amount of points that we had at the time, we knew we needed a value 2-bedroom, which looking back on it, it is an act of God that we got that. Just so you know, because we had no idea what we were doing. But so we needed the value 2-bedroom to be able to afford the points to take both of our moms and stay. And we gave them each a bedroom, and we slept on the couch, in the pull-out couch.
Love.
That's love for our moms. But anyways, we were talking. I remember having this conversation with you, and let me see if I can say this right. We knew we had to borrow points to be able to afford it. We thought we had to wait until that use year started before we could borrow those points.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well,
So I thought that we couldn't borrow the 2025 points until February started because we were a February use year.
I can see where we probably made that mistake, only because I talk to people every day that for some reason think like, I want to rent my February 2025 points. Like, if they called me today, they'd say, I want to rent my February 2025 points. Can I list them now so that they're there when I get them on February 1st, 2025? And this is like, this, I've preached this, I think, upside down and backwards for years. It is one of the biggest misconceptions on how points are calculated. It is not what points are in my account today. It is what points on the day of check-in of that reservation are available to be used. That's what matters to Disney Vacation Club, because that's when they're going to take essentially custody of those points officially, and take them out of your account fully, is, that what is available on that day. So if that day, again, like the person like calling me today saying, hey, I want to rent my February 2024 point or my February 2025 points. Can I list them today? But do I have to wait? And then on February 1st, 2025, I can do those rentals. No, you can do those today, and you're not even borrowing points. That's not borrowing points. Like you can then borrow from 2026. So like, there's a lot of people that get very confused on that. A lot of people that have owned points for years that get very, very confused with that. And so it's always important to remember, what is that check-in day of my stay? Like, put yourself in tunnel vision. What is my check-in day of that stay? Okay, fast forward in life to that day, and then what points do I have?
So for us, I thought, okay, we're going in June of 2019. It's 2018 in July. Our 11-month window is coming up. So I thought I could only book the amount of nights that we had of points in that whatever use year, 2019 or whatever. And then I had to wait again until February. And I'm glad that when I went on to book that I saw, I've got all these extra points that I can borrow. They're right there. It's letting me take them already. And so I'm glad that we kind of figured that one out.
Yeah, that's a big one. That happens. That happens very frequently.
Yeah.
I can tell you first and foremost, I get that question at least 874 times a day, just because people go so deep in the weeds when it comes to use year that once you just kind of explain them and say, no, like this is not Monopoly. You don't have to, quote unquote, pass go, meaning if I have an October use year, that means I can't book until October 1st, right? So then I can book for the next year. I'm like, no, you will not like your membership if you wait.
Right? Like, you wonder
You
how
will not like it.
All in October use year means is that those points that are sitting there waiting are good for trips anytime from October 1st all the way through, say, September 30th of the following year. If I have a March use year, that means those March points are good for trips taking place. Those points are sitting there waiting to be used anytime between March 1st and all the way through February 28th.
Yeah. Still book at your 11-month window.
Yes.
It's based on the stay.
I've said exactly what you said, Derek, when I've had these conversations before, which is like, you must hate Disney Vacation Club. Like, you must have hated your membership for 25, like however long you've owned. Because like, could you imagine if like thinking like you, Derek, as a Boardwalk owner, imagine thinking of that, thinking that way and using your points that way. You never get into Boardwalk. Like you're always going to Jeff's home and checking out Old Key West.
Oh, could you imagine being a Grand Cal owner?
Yeah. Like if you would,
You'd never stay ever.
If you bought it, one of these resorts that like you really loved and you're like,
or beach club.
And I've heard people say that. I've never stayed there in the history of my membership.
I bought Grand Cal and I stay Saratoga all the time.
Like,
or people which I hear all the time. Yeah, I think we're going to sell it because we can never get what we want, because we always like to go Christmas week, but everything's already booked. And, you know, we have an October use year, so we can't book until October 1st. And I'm like, no, that's not true. You could have booked. And then once you explain it, they're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Okay, I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to hold on to it and try it again.
This is why we are here for you now, so that you will.
Yeah.
Newer owners will never make these mistakes again.
I have two more. One's just real quick. If you know you're gonna have to cancel a stay, or you're holding out, or you know whatever, if you don't cancel until 30 days, your points are gonna get stuck in holding. So always put that 31-day mark on your calendar so you can be reminded that you need to cancel at least 31 days out. Or longer.
And I'll add to that and just say that in terms of holding, so we've talked about holding before, but basically it's a penalty box for points. And what it means is that you can only then book stays within 60 days of a check-in date. But that doesn't mean that you must use your points within 60 days.
That's true.
And we have I've seen people too before where it comes, my points are holding, I got to use them in 60 days. It's like, no, they are going to be good for the rest of your current use year. It's just you have that rolling 60-day window that shifts forward a day.
It continues to
every day
push
until
out
we get to the end of your use year. Also, no points expire December 31st. I just want to make that very, very clear. No points. That's another one I get very, very frequently.
Yeah, all points expire the day before the next use year starts. And it's interesting because
there's no January use year.
There's no January use year. There's no May. There's no. I have to think about it.
There's a cheat sheet right there.
There it is. November. There's no November. I can't.
I've got a whiteboard in front of me.
I haven't found the cheat sheet.
That has all of my.
Wait, so how many different use years are there?
8.
Oh,
8 use years.
Wow.
February, March, April, June, August, September, October, December. So the one that I missed was July doesn't exist. So no January, no July, no November, and I'm missing one. No May.
That was really hard.
I know them in my head. I just have to go through the whole year. Okay, so the last one for me, and if you guys have anything else, is a common question for very, very new buyers. And some people have even said that they bought their membership and thought that this was how it was going to work, and it didn't. And then you're very sorely disappointed. The pool. Yeah. When I was a teacher, my students made fun of me for the way I said bagel, pool.
I'm still going to make fun.
And magazine.
Magazine.
I think
how are you saying
normal. Bagel?
A bagel?
Bagel?
What's a bagel?
Anyway,
I don't know, but before we move on from that lovely point, I do want to. We did have a viewer reach out to us the other day, and I thought it was very, very nice and kind that they mentioned. What?
I don't know where this is going.
Me and Derek are still laughing at Bagel.
Oh.
So is Jeff. So is Jeff.
Just making me hungry for a bagel with cream
Oh
cheese.
no!
Okay.
Tell me where you pronounce Alani wrong.
You just did again.
Alani.
It's not Alani?
No, but Tom, who actually emailed us the other day, wonderful viewer of the show, follows us and absolutely loves Aulani. So it's the U. It is not a silent U. He said Aulani is the color orange, while Aulani means messenger of the chief. Beautiful name for a beautiful place, he said. So
it's Aulani.
Yes.
Ow.
Yeah, the U is not silent in there. And, it has a lot to do with the Hawaiian culture. And Tom, thank you for pointing that out. I cannot sit here and promise you that I am going to pronounce it because I had someone.
Aulani? Like I'm supposed to make sure the U is in there?
Ow.
Ow.
Ow. Like you're stepping on a Lego.
Aulani.
She's
I'm
West
so
Virginian, ladies and
sorry.
gentlemen.
I'm from West Virginia.
It's not going to happen.
I'm going to work really hard at it, though.
No.
I did change my pronunciation of Topolino's when
yes.
someone mentioned it, and
That was
I have
another one.
fixed
Yeah.
that one. But
no.
the
I think,
Aulani one is going to take me some time.
but it's good to mention too. Like, Tom, thank you so much for listening. Thank you also for reaching out and really explaining us to the reasoning behind, why we should think about that a little bit more before we say it. So, long story short, thank you, Tom.
I will try really hard. And I apologize for my future infractions.
Yeah, I apologize for really taking you on a tangent with what you were trying to say.
No, that was interesting. I really like knowing the difference between the two words.
Yep.
Anyway.
I feel like right after we go camera dark, she just slaps him. No, that was very interesting, Paul. So interesting.
Now go give me a bagel.
Please film that for Patreon.
Give me a bagel.
So interesting, Paul.
Bagel bites.
Oh, Amy's getting pooped on.
Don't take the Amy cake.
Are we done with that?
Jeff's laughing over there.
Okay, my last one is I lost track. I was way into this until I got.
I apologized already for that, but I will apologize again.
This happens a lot.
Okay.
There are a lot of buyers that think this is how their membership works, and it doesn't. And it's the fact that there are people out there that think that they can buy 300 Saratoga points and 50 Beach Club points, and then at the 11-month window, they can use all 350 points at Beach Club. And
why would anyone think that?
That is not a thing. It happens a lot more than you think. I think you have to start by realizing that there's no, like when we bought DVC, there was, you get the home resort rules and regulations and the, public offering statements. None of that teaches you how to use your membership at all. And you really just have to figure it out by doing it and making mistakes. And these types of podcasts and shows and websites didn't exist when we bought.
No.
So you just had no way of knowing that we didn't have to wait till the use year started or that you can't use your points that way. But yeah, that is a big thing. So when you buy points at two different resorts, you cannot combine those points until the 7-month window because they retain their home resort, until they're able to be used at other resorts. And obviously, disclaimer here, resale restrictions and stuff can prevent you from using some points at some places. But so if you have 300 Saratoga points and 50 Beach Club points.
One Polynesian point. Just one.
Just one. You think they would ever sell one point? I think 25 is the minimum. 25 was the minimum amount because that's the smallest contract I've ever seen. It's 25. Derek, am I right?
It is, yeah.
Nothing smaller than that. And even now, I would say that's very rare. 25. I don't think they sell 25 anymore. As
you can buy 25, but it has to be cash. If you're doing from Disney. And then financing starts at 50 points. When I was a guide like forever ago, the minimum legit was like 150. Like you couldn't go any lower. And I was outside Chicago, and we used to always say, God, that'd be great. Like if you could, because there's people that maybe don't need like the full 150. There's people that want like 100, and then they wound up dropping it to like 100, and then they kept going like lower, which I know that's a whole other show about people.
Yeah. So yeah. So for you and myself as well, because I see a lot of contracts that come across my desk, it's always interesting to see, you know, the most popular Animal Kingdom contract is 160 points. That was probably the requirement. Then the most popular, the most popular Copper Creek contract is 75 points, because then they had dropped it to 75 when Copper Creek went up. So it's interesting to see those trends with those contracts. One big Old Key West number is 210.
210 was the number that I'm almost positive that when you first learned about DVC, you couldn't do anything less than 210. That was literally
that makes sense. And
1992, it was, they offered you 210. You could do more than 210.
Yeah.
210 was it. That's
that
how
explains that one. Okay.
I know for deeded reasons and stuff, it doesn't work this way or can't work this way. But I remember I used to always joke with you where it was like, it would be great if I could just buy another point at a time.
Yeah.
Like if I had,
as we could afford it.
Yeah. If I had like the $200 or something cash just sitting around, and I could just give it and buy a point, and then like the next time give it and just slowly.
That is great, actually.
Paul has 400 deeds on Orange County Comptroller.
It's more for the reason of like the odds of me letting that $200 then sit. It's not going to happen. Like, like probably not.
I'm sure there's valid reason why that's not a thing.
Many valid reasons, but
because it's like this: you go in your wallet, you're just like, so I'd like some Old Key West, but Mr. Haslam has them all. Okay.
Okay, so while we're talking about pronouncing Aulani right, Derek, my last name is Haslam. You've been calling me Haslam since we met.
Wait, you just said it the same way. Haslam.
It sounds like a Z.
Haslam, not Haslam.
He calls me Haslam.
His name is, what was it? Jaslam?
F Jaslam. That was it.
Well, I've lost track of my thought.
On that note, we are definitely getting carried away here, but I hope that some of these pointers will allow you to either continue to use your membership in new and unique ways and not make the same mistakes that we have over the years, or if you are a new purchaser or someone that's considering buying into Disney Vacation Club, that these are just some things to keep in mind, write down in your little notebook as you are making that decision of maybe what contract, what resort to buy, how many points, what use here, all of those factors. And I think as Amy said here, to kind of wrap up, you know, a large portion of today's membership of Disney Vacation Club did not have the educational options that are now available to you as part of DVC Fan or other podcasts or other channels or other websites. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing, because now we can use this to its fullest potential and be very, very, very happy with being Disney Vacation Club members and happy with using that membership year after year after year. So, take these mistakes that we have made to heart, and hopefully it'll allow you to use your membership a little bit better. But for all of us, that is it for this week's episode of the DVC Show, and we will see you next Monday.
Haslam.
Bah.